This episode of Warm Hugs with Suzanne is dedicated to Bobby, beautiful friend and mentor, to my guest today, Bill Yeates. Bobby was also a fellow dementia sufferer. She will live forever in Bill's heart. Hello and welcome to Warm Hugs with Suzanne. I'm Suzanne Mann, and today's episode is on dementia. But this isn't just any normal episode on dementia. I'm not talking to a doctor. I'm actually talking to someone with multiple firsthand experience. Tonight, I'm going to be introducing you to Bill Yeates. He has not only been a carer for his father, who suffered from dementia, but a few years ago, Bill actually found out that he had young onset dementia. And Bill has not let it get him down that I can see right now. But we're going to hear a bit about Bill's story. Bill is also part of the Alzheimer's. He's on the board of the Alzheimer's Disease International. I think I've got that right. And so I want to get right into it because we have a lot to talk about. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I'll say good evening to everyone because it is morning where I am. That's in Sydney, Australia. Um, yeah, well, I was going to say it's 28 degrees where I am. There's a light breeze. I was out early this morning walking my dog like I do every day. Um, and I think doing this podcast is something which I really do enjoy. And I hope that I'm able to provide information, maybe insights into what it is like living with dementia.
I, I
But I will say, after this, I'm going to go for a swim and I'm going to do my normal gym work. So it's a big day for me.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you. And thank you for making time. And thank you for our listeners for making time. But Bill, thank you for making time for me today. And I really do, because as much as I know that you have done many newspaper stories, television stories, podcasts, I know that I speak to a lot of people in regards to dementia. I've even had contact with the Dementia Society here in the Bahamas. And there's just always more that can be said, more that can be heard, more that can be understood. And there's never just, I don't know, I just feel like there's never getting too much of a message out there. So I can't wait to talk to you. You've sort of checked in already, but I thought I'll just officially ask you how you're checking in this morning then.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think today's a good day. I think you often hear with dementia, it is very much cyclic. Like you have your good days and you have your bad days. Well, let's say the days that are more challenging than others. And I think I know that I always have got a smile on my face. I probably when I know there's a routine in front of me, I know what I'm doing, and I really do enjoy my swimming. I enjoy my physical exercise, and probably most importantly, I enjoy social engagement, getting out there and talking to people. So it's a
Beautiful.
good day for me.
Lovely. Thanks, Bill. I'm glad that we can participate in your good day. Now, I thought that maybe the best way to start would be if you could tell us a little bit about your story. Who is Bill Yeates? Probably, maybe even a bit before, because you're not just dementia. Bill is not dementia. What what's your story?
Sure. I might start off with exactly that. I live in a place called Sydney. It's on the northern beaches in Australia. And as I was saying, we have not quite the temperatures that you guys have, but we're similar to it. We have our summer, we have our winter. Um, I was uh, I've been living on the northern beaches all of my life. I'm now turning 66. I'm getting old. Uh, I'm one of five
It's
children.
only a number.
True, it is only a number. I'm one of five, and I also have an identical twin brother, and his name's Peter.
Wait,
He
wait, wait.
shows no signs.
How do I know that I'm talking to Bill then?
Very good question. And make it worse, he lives in the same street as me, so I have actually organised for him to come in at some point and see how
What?
he goes. No, no.
That would have been
It
so
would
amazing.
I was tempted, but he actually had something on today. But no, we haven't lost our sense of humor, shall we say.
Okay. Okay. Sorry to
Um,
interrupt, but I really was. I was thinking, how do I know it's Bill and not Peter?
um, everyone tells me I'm the one who's got a scar on his eye, and that's part of football, part of my younger life. Um, Growing up in the Sydney Northern Beaches, surfing was very big in my life, swimming, and also a lot of sport. It was very sporty. Peter and I are both as good twins. Still live in the same street as each other. We did the university. We did the same course. Both of us graduated as pharmacists. Pete stayed in the pharmacy sector, whereas I went into the education field. A point which have stayed for over 35 years, not just as a teacher of physics and chemistry, but I really had the aspirations that over time I wanted to be able to be my own headmaster of a private school. And that's the aspirations that will talk about later. Um, I have three kids and three grandchildren. Um, and because living on the Northern Beaches is all about water, I became a volunteer surf lifesaver. And in those years, um, I compete. I still compete in lifesaving. I don't get on the podium at all, but not about that. It's really just about being able to do it. I've coached kids in an event called Champion Lifesaver. And won between Peter and myself, we won quite a few Australian medals. So it's something we're quite
Wow.
good at it. And it's a part of me which I do miss. Um, Alluded before, Suzanne spoke before about my father, and it was interesting. In 2008, my parents, after 57 years of marriage, separated. And they separated because my mother couldn't um, look after my father anymore with dementia. And I have no regrets for that because I actually told her to, you came with my blessing to leave. What I didn't expect was how it divided the family. The end result of all that was that Peter and I looked after our father for 4 years before he passed away. So my experience with dementia is not only living with it, but also as a carer. Um, it's interesting in those years since 2012, from my mother's side, five in her family, three have passed away, and two are in the latter stages of her siblings or have dementia.
Wow.
So it's very much on that side. And obviously, with my father's passing away, we're not sure of my grandfather. But I tested myself only because I'm very much into clinical trials, and I'm APO4, APO3. I'm heterozygous. It's a genetic
I don't know what that
fact.
means. Can you explain that to
Oh,
us?
sure. There is evidence out there to show that some people are more predisposed to getting dementia. So there's some genes that you would say they're mutations, um, which are in your genetic code, and they've identified APO4 as the main one. And
Right.
probably more recently across the world, there's a very famous Australian actor, Chris Hemsworth, and his father has just been diagnosed with young onset dementia. And his makeup is he's homozygous, which is he has two APO4s. I'm heterozygous. I have one. So Chris, from journal articles and things like that, would have a greater
Mm.
chance of getting dementia than say I would. Um,
Of
and
yes, and for
young
example,
onset is
your children do not would have a lesser chance than Chris would.
look, I'm actually not sure on that one. I
Oh, okay.
suppose because I'm assuming now that the APO3 came from my father.
Right. But
And obviously with my
I never realized you could even do any sort of genetic testing.
yes, look, there's been so many advances of more recent times. I only know my genetic makeup because of the clinical trial that I was involved in,
Hmm.
and they sort of did it for me. Otherwise, it does cost, probably hundreds of dollars, maybe even $1,000 to get it done. But um, that's a personal thing. So I
Hmm.
just know my code, and I'm obviously Peter being my twin brother is identical.
I was wondering. Yes, right. Okay.
Yeah.
But
So
he does not have dementia.
Yes, and from the putting the clinical hat in on, and when I talk to clinicians, obviously in my case there was a trigger.
Mm,
The fact that he's got exactly the same genes as me. He actually looks the same. Scary. However, um, there must have been a trigger, and I think within reason I've been able to identify that trigger. And that trigger was also the reason why I chose a very particular type of clinical trial. Um, and and I often tell people, and probably the biggest gamble of my life, I chose to follow what they call the neuroinflammation hypothesis. And from all accounts, I've been on this drug now for 4.5 years. I think the results are encouraging for me.
fabulous, right? And is that so? But that is still part of the trial. That's not something that is readily available as yet.
No, no. Sadly to say, in my case, if I just do a little bit of about it, it's an American company, Immune Bio, not giving them any publicity at all.
Hmm.
Um, in their case, I was involved in what they call a phase 1B trial, which is where they're looking at the efficacy of it. What is the dose they should be giving participants? Um, and at that point in time, two of us, both Australians, which was interesting, only two of us showed some amazing results, which allowed me to then petition my government, what we call the special access scheme, that the Immune Bio have given me access to the drug for something like 3.5 years, at
Right.
no cost to me. So I'm highly, it's a huge advantage for me. But sadly to say, they released their clinical two trial results last year and they failed. They didn't
Ah,
reach their expectations. So the drug is now withdrawn and
right.
I'm no longer on that drug.
Right. So it's not, yeah, it's not even available to you anymore then.
No, no. And
Ah,
hopefully they'll try phase 3 and maybe it will. If
yeah.
not, um, it's not the end of the world. It's
Yes.
just another step.
Yeah. Again, it's part of your story. And can I just say, how amazing is it that you have a pharmacology background and were a chemistry physics teacher to be able to understand all of that as well?
Yeah, and do you know something? I think I've always been taught that in negativity, you should look for positivity. And I think exactly what you've just said there is that my background, and it would happen that Peter, for example, went into clinical trials and things like that. So between the two of us, we worked out which was the best trial, which
Mm,
matched my criteria.
yeah.
So, and they often say you get all your ducks in line, whatever. In my case, and I just also think it was the biggest gamble, was completely left field 6 years ago. Um, Most of it was all about the amyloid beta and the tau hypothesis, which, as far as I was concerned, had showed no promise at all. So I needed to try something different, something
Yeah.
which matched my lifestyle, or was
Yeah.
something which had occurred in my life.
Right. Now I feel like we've jumped ahead a little bit. I was just wondering, so how did you actually come to, well, was it by doing that test, that genetic test, that you found out that you had it, or how did you actually otherwise figure out that you had? And I've always called it early onset, but is it young onset? Am I?
There's Suzanne, just recently, I used to refer to it as younger. So there's even another
Oh, okay.
difference, but
Yeah.
there's now seems to be acceptance that will call throughout the world, it'll be known as young onset
Okay.
Alzheimer's or young onset dementia.
Hmm.
Um, so mine's a little bit interesting in terms of how it came about. Um, I had a depressive episode, work related, way back in 2014. So I was one of those people who was misdiagnosed for 5 years, and I
Mm.
was treated for depression. So much so, when we got to, was known as drug resistant. And so when we got to the clinician talking about, Bill, we think we'll have to have electroconvulsive therapy for you. Really started to say, look,
Wow.
from a pharmacology point of view, you've actually tried every drug that I know of in terms of a sequence of being antidepressants and antipsychotics. So going down the electroconvulsive convulsive point is actually quite a drastic step. And
Mm,
I said, look, can we start looking for something else?
yeah.
So that was way back in 2018. I had a MRI scan, which removed the idea of it could be a brain tumor. And then I had a perfusion test, which showed a reduced blood supply to the brain. That then led me to a geriatrician who then said, look, I think you have Alzheimer's. However, um, the only true test is that there's a gold standard they refer to as an amyloid PET scan. And I had that. And it showed in those days, it's now percentages, but 6 years ago, they'd only talked in grade one, two, and three. So in my case, I had a grade three loading of amyloid throughout my brain, which is significant.
Right.
So
So,
combined, go.
so again, can I just ask? So, first of all, is this Alzheimer's and not dementia, or are they? I'm just want to make sure I'm using the
Mhm.
right terminology there. But plus,
Sure.
also, so are you saying that if you have it, I know, I mean, I thought that the test for it would be, you know, can you tell me what day of the week it is and what year it is and who the president is? I thought
Yeah,
it would be a list of questions, but you're saying that there's actually there's testing that you do as well. But first, the
yeah.
Alzheimer's dementia part.
Alzheimer's is referred to as a disease, so you can home straight in on. Parkinson's is also known as a disease.
Hmm.
Lewy body is a disease. Now, if you then show other series of symptoms, which all those diseases have in common, then it's known as dementia. So dementia is referred to as an umbrella term. It's not a disease, it's a condition or a
I was
syndrome.
wondering, right?
And there's like 105 different diseases, like Alzheimer's, which is the most well-known um, examples of dementia.
Wow.
Hmm. So in
Okay.
my case, I was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's dementia. The
Okay.
clinician had no problems in saying, Bill, it's not just dementia. Sorry, it's not just Alzheimer's, it's actually dementia. I'd
Right.
progressed right away.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So
So
right,
it's that umbrella term.
yeah, yeah, and you often see it, especially on LinkedIn, where I'm on. You can see they often have an umbrella as a graphic, and they have all the different types of diseases like Alzheimer's underneath it. So you get the concept dementia is an umbrella term.
Yes. So people who have Parkinson's often have like Parkinson's is a partly a dementia, you're saying.
Oh, definitely. Parkinson's is an example of dementia.
I had no idea.
You know,
Okay.
provided it shows the common characteristics, which is fairly straightforward.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Okay. So having dementia in general, you can you actually test for dementia or you're
yeah.
testing for the underlying disease that links to dementia?
So when I mentioned amyloid beta and tau,
Hmm.
they're very much part of Alzheimer's. And as a result, their presence of those in your brain causes a lot of the deterioration which is occurring. So it's very much tau related. And there are many types of tau. We don't need to go into that, but it's very much in that area. Now, as soon as you start to show that deterioration with certain symptoms, it's dementia. It's still Alzheimer's,
Hmm.
but it's then also you're referring to it as dementia. So rather than, like, for example, ADI is called Alzheimer's Disease International.
Yes.
And in their case, they deal a lot with dementia because they realized when they first named it many, many years ago that it was all about Alzheimer's disease because it's what everyone talks about.
Mm.
But it probably is probably more correct to be dementia, but we just understand that.
Because people who might have other diseases are still having similar symptoms and thus need similar care
Yeah,
in those
yeah,
ways.
yeah. And for that reason,
Ah,
a lot of times you hear it, it's often used interchangeable. I get
Yes.
it without causing the confusion.
Yes.
No, it's just used interchangeable.
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you explained that to me because it was actually one of the things I was wondering as well, because I was going to say to you, for example, is it a disease? Is it a condition? I was confused about that side as well. So that, gosh, that
Happy to
really
answer that
clears
for
it
you.
up. Yeah.
Um,
So you had a
the
trigger
second part,
episode.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the second part you asked me, and like in terms of getting a diagnosis, it's based on the symptoms that you're displaying. It's based on the tests that you undergo, which were, each of my cases that was clearly indicative of Alzheimer's. And then the final piece of that puzzle is what tests have you undergone. The
Hmm.
gold standard, and it still remains the gold standard, is an amyloid PET scan because it cost, like for example, it cost me $2,500 to get that. It's
Wow.
not covered. I had to pay for that. I
Yes.
wanted an answer,
Yes.
so that's why I did it. And once I got those results of that test in combination with the symptoms I was displaying and my performance in the tests that you referred to, the diagnosis was straightforward.
Right. Right. Okay. So, for example, you're saying again, as for you, it was getting confused with the dementia. I mean, sorry, with the depression, because this is one of the things I was even thinking, okay, I have said to my family recently, I'm going through perimenopause. It seems like it's very trendy to think to say these days, but I feel like it's just because we're actually talking about it a bit more. And brain fog is a real thing. So, and more, I never realized, and I can even think back to times, for example, with my own mother, where I would say to her, Mom, we spoke about this yesterday. You know, why don't you remember this conversation? So, your average person, when do they need to start worrying or thinking, beyond, okay, maybe this is brain fog, maybe is there any advice in that way?
Yeah, look, and this is when I was first diagnosed, I knew nothing about young onset. I didn't even think it existed.
Mm,
And likewise, I've since learned there's a thing called childhood dementia. I was
wow.
completely didn't even know that.
No.
And, and I think just quickly, I did a conference in Sydney, and this lady at the end of it came up to me and said, "Oh, that was really, really good." And she was really tearful, but can you help me? And I still remember the conversation because that's when I learned that there are young kids out there. In her case, her daughter was 14 years of age, and she had a diagnosis of dementia. I just blew me away. I didn't even think about it.
No.
Um, Likewise, when I was diagnosed, I was of the opinion that dementia was an aging thing.
Mm,
I didn't even think that I would actually have it. I was looking for something else. It wasn't dementia. And
yeah.
I said, there's something more, something more sinister behind this. Dementia was not on my um, radar at that point in time.
Mm, definitely. So it can happen. I mean, it can happen to anyone.
Yes, yeah. And look, I'm happy to talk about risk factors and all that because it's a big,
Yeah.
it's big.
Yeah.
But
So, and now what about, are there any ways to prevent it?
look, these days, and you're seeing so much advance happening throughout the whole world. You're seeing it in terms of the drugs which are becoming available, but more so in the area of Lancet. There's a thing called Lancet Commission, and they're releasing to the world. Look, there are a whole range of preventable factors that can modify your
Hmm.
chances of getting dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And had I been aware of that, that for me it's powerful now. I wish I'd known about it 20 years ago because, the doctors are saying is that you're not getting Alzheimer's disease because of something you did yesterday.
Mm.
They're saying it takes 20, let's pick a number, 20 years for it to develop. And they're
Right.
also realizing now that there are indicators. And like just when you mentioned brain fog, just having brain fog isn't an indicator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very, one of the things that we don't want to overreact here. There
Yeah.
are there are symptoms associated with dementia which are part of normal aging. Like if you forget your keys yesterday. Oh, where did I put my keys to? Does that mean you've got dementia? No, 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 not at all. And so it's in some cases it's not the symptom, it's the frequency of it. And if you
Mm.
did it 1 or 2 times a week, lost your keys or lost your wallet, that's just normal aging. If you're doing it 5 or 6 times a day, then you'd have to stop and think about it and saying, well, okay, why am I just suddenly what's going on? And there are
Right.
things which mimic. Depression does mimic dementia. That's why the two can get confused.
Mm-hmm.
And probably for the listeners out there, I think it's really important that you learn about dementia and you learn about all the different symptoms, but don't play doctor. I think that's probably the most, oh my God, I've got this, I've got that. Um, because it's really about the frequency in a lot of cases, and I'll talk about a little bit later about some other things, but it's also too that there are some classic ones which I must admit, and um, like for example, I knew that my father something was really wrong the day that he came out to watch my son compete in a surf life saving competition, and he couldn't remember where he parked his car. Had no idea. And quite often, and I tell this one, is that for me, that might be normal. I
Mm.
go out, I park my car. If I haven't landmarked it or written down what's next to the tree, which is tall or whatever, then I'll do it. Now, for me, I can't backtrack, meaning that, oh, okay, I left at 9:30. That's right. I came in that driveway over there. I turned left. That's what I did. Turned left. So my car's up there. So that's fairly straightforward for anyone else. And just because you got confused, but you can backtrack, a person with dementia can't do that. You're
Ah.
not able to recall the steps. And that's this sort of the difference. And a doctor would explain that.
So it wasn't necessarily that your father couldn't remember where he parked the car, but he couldn't remember anything about parking the car.
Yeah. It's like I've got my phone here, you know, and I've lost it. I thought, well, where did I do it? And I thought, oh, that's right. I went shopping. I came in. I went to the garage. Oh, I probably left it down there.
Yeah.
Go down. Oh, there it is. Now, that's just normal aging.
Right. Ah,
But if
that
you just, if, is that all?
that's
Hopefully that's a little bit
no, I
more clarity for
completely
you?
get that. I really that's I, I love that. I love that example and explaining that because again, that's, yes, I I, for- I forget the other day I forgot my water bottle at a swim meet for my daughter. And but the
Yes.
funny thing was that I I had changed seats and I went and bought a bottle of water because I thought I'd left my water bottle in the car, but I'd actually just left it in my first seat. But I was, by the time I got home, I thought, wait, this is what I did.
Yeah.
And I was able to backtrack. And I thought, and I did. I thought, Suzanne, oh my gosh, you're so forgetful.
Yeah. And that's
But
where it sits. It,
okay. But because I was able to remember all of that process, that's a good thing.
yes. And a person with dementia like myself, I can't form new memories. So I have no idea what I did. I
What do you
can't
mean you
backtrack.
can't form new memories? Because you remember me from when we met.
But can I, and to the listeners, I probably should have said it from day one. I am not your typical person living with dementia. I'm a person who's been on a clinical trial for over 4.5 years. Probably makes me probably the longest in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is a clear difference. And I hope to share with you later exactly what I do
Yeah.
um, in terms of how do I manage it?
Well,
How do I manage my...
that was exactly what I was going to get into next, Bill, because again, just even talking to you now, I would never, and I never picked. So for everyone, for everyone out there, when I first met Bill, I had no idea you had dementia. It so happened that I was talking to my friend Matt. Shout out to Matt. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to Bill. And we were talking about the hello shirts that were at the beach in Curl Curl. And he said, "Oh, Bill actually has to do with that." And then he started telling me a little bit about you and that you'd had dementia. Then I looked you up and I went, "What? How is this the same person that I was speaking to? Because you are so positive. You are so active. You remember me all the time." But of course, I'm pretty memorable too. Maybe that's just it.
You've stolen my line. What do I say to that?
I just thought I'd get it in there in case you didn't think of it.
Then I'll get a small secret in. And
So,
please do not be offended.
okay.
When I first met you in the pool, and I met
Yes.
you again later, I did not remember your name.
Oh, well, that's okay because I hardly remember anyone's names.
But then this is me saying, is that like from my perspective, um, you're there are a lot of I'm very critical. And I know, and I've learned how to hide things.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And when I met you again, I was able to hide that, but I did not. And that's
Did you
why I
remember
sort of
my
say,
face?
yes, I did.
See,
I remember.
that's the
I
thing.
remember this vibrant for everyone out there. I remember this vibrant personality. I've just, well, I don't know, a kilometer and a half or whatever it was. I'm tired. It's about 6:30 in the morning. I've been swimming since 5:30. And I met Suzanne for the first time, this bubbly person. So how could I forget that face? Not possible. But I did forget them.
Well, but truly, Bill, I'm the worst person with names ever. I'm pretty sure I probably looked your name up or asked Matt for your name the second time as well.
And that's fine.
But how do you, how have you not fallen into a complete heap?
Um, I did,
It's
and
hard to
I answer
believe.
that
Yeah.
quite, and I'm happy to talk about it. There was a period because because I'd looked after my father for those 4 years. I was fully aware of the journey in front of me when I
Mm,
received that diagnosis. So at one point when I first got it, it was relief, believe it or not.
mm,
Relief because I didn't have to get the electroconvulsive therapy. There was an answer as to what was causing my problems. And then the sadness kicked in. And then over the next couple of days and weeks, as I learnt more about dementia, I realized it was incurable and it was progressive. So where I'd been caring for my father, that was now my lot. And for the next probably 3 months, um, I was a completely different person. I'd given up on life. I don't mind saying to you, and I tell people quite honestly, um, it got to the point that I was eating and drinking too much. My weight went from 80 kilos to 106 kilos.
mm.
Basically, I felt sorry for myself. I retreated from society. I stayed at home, and I was not a very good role model for my kids. So you talk up, and that was a part of me, and I share it because to simply say that is the impact that a diagnosis can have on you.
Yep.
And I say that because mine was young onset, and for others, it's sort of different. And like from my perspective, there are clear challenges associated with my diagnosis. I'd spent a lifetime with a goal, aspirations. I know where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a headmaster. I completed two master's degrees. I'd worked hard over 35, a period of 35 years to get to that. And I was
Mm,
just about there.
yeah.
I've been given two acting headmaster's jobs. So I was just about there. And then the diagnosis came. So pretty shattering for me. Um, then you've also got to consider there's the financial aspect. I was only 59 when I was diagnosed. So I had 6 to 8 years in front of me to earn. So that was a problem. But I think the biggest issue for me was the parenting. That now where Nicole and myself shared the role, well, we shared the whole thing of being a family, being husband and wife. Suddenly it was gone.
Right.
So I had my kids at that time were 23, 21, and 17. So that fully fell onto my wife. Everything about financial, our relationship was strained as the years went on. And I'm saying not just with Nicole, but each of my kids.
Mm,
And that period of time was where I'd given up on life, was pretty destructive. And you probably gather from me, I'm a fairly upfront, strong personality. And I was deputy of like a school which has had 1,200 kids, and I could talk in the front of an assembly when no one would say anything. It'd be just silence. I was a pretty demanding person.
yeah.
However, to suddenly go from that type of person to a person who'd given up on life, and I do mean I had given up. I felt
Yeah.
sorry for myself.
Yeah.
Um, I could imagine for my kids that was pretty confronting.
Mm,
I was very socially and physically active myself. And from my perspective, that dark side, I refer to it as a really dark time. I'd allowed it to encroach upon me, and I didn't cope well. And it's fairly common out there. And there's that period of time when you learn to accept it. And mine was about, luckily for me, a group of seven friends who didn't know that I had a diagnosis of dementia at that point. I told no one, bit of a stigma attached to it.
yeah.
I went to Japan, and I think I enjoyed myself so much. I came back as a person who said, "Well, hold on, I think I got it all wrong. I really, life is actually fun. I can actually enjoy life." And my approach was totally wrong, totally wrong. So I decided at that point in time I was going to change.
Wow.
And that's so you're seeing now,
Yeah.
let's call it a transformation. You're
Yep.
seeing that person who'd given up to a person who doesn't give up anymore
Hmm.
and who has now spent a lot of his time trying to work out and show people how not to follow my path. Follow
Yeah.
this path. It's much better.
Yeah. But what is that path? What does that path look like? How do you even go from, I mean, obviously, yeah, so you have this turning point where you go, life is actually worth living. How do you figure out how to do it? And one of the reasons why, and one of the things I know, because I know you have a very visual way of doing this as well, because I've looked up your website and I, okay, I need every listener to be listening to this because the thing is, Bill, this isn't just for dementia. This is for everyone. This is for life. I looked at your positive tree of positivity that you're going to talk to us about, I know. And I told, as had mentioned to you, I teach a course on leadership and compassion and, better emotional intelligence. And this is all part of it. This is all of us. Everyone is able to be in those really dark places as well. We all need to have ways to stay living life. And so, this next part, especially, everyone pay attention. Bill's amazing. This is amazing. Please go ahead.
My apologies first. I'll probably get too passionate about it, and I do apologize for that.
Oh, no, I'm not passionate at
I'm
all, am I?
no, I should employ you as my manager. Um, and I'm not doing a sell on this, honestly. I suppose when I came back from Japan after watching World Rugby and having such a great time, it really dawned on me two things. One, there was no post-diagnostic care and support program. No one could tell me how to fight this disease. And that I found, and it was incurable, it's progressive. So my question was, well, how do I slow it down?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my clinician, and she was fantastic, trust me, um, told me, oh, Bill, you could keep active, you could eat healthy, socially engage, exercise your brain, sleep well, reduce your alcohol. And for me, I think the way my brain is wired, that wasn't enough. I That made no sense to me
Mm.
at all. I could work that out myself. I
Yeah.
needed to change. So I did a lot of research on it. And at this point in time, I was diagnosed in August 2019. I've told no one that I have a diagnosis. I told no one. It wasn't because I was afraid. It was more that if I was going to tell people how that I had a diagnosis, I really needed to tell them how I was going to fight it. What
Mm.
was I going to do?
Yeah.
Yet I had no answer. So that was my blockage. I just couldn't tell anyone to say, look, by the way, I was been diagnosed with dementia. That's like me putting my hand up and saying, oh, sympathy. Anyone feels sorry for Bill. That's not me.
Yeah. It's not your personality. Yeah.
So what I did was I researched, and again, it's my background in pharmacy and me understanding journals and things like that. And I read, experimented, and I was of the view that, and people would differ on this, that to me, yes, dementia is about, and Alzheimer's is about a cognitive decline. Totally on the page. I'm not disagreeing with that. But I think for people who have young onset dementia, that is under the age of 65, it also destroyed my self-concept. And I think I was young enough. I worked all my life to achieve something, certain goals.
Mm.
And when that was taken away from me, my concept of self, my self-identity, I don't think I looked in the mirror. I don't think I realized who I was. I couldn't identify that person anymore. So what I'm going to talk about now addresses everything that a clinician would tell a person who's been diagnosed with dementia as what you need to do. But I actually think it's more than that. It's about you need to rebuild yourself. And I looked at what is self. And as far as I was concerned, if I was going to rebuild my self concept, I needed to do the body, the mind, the heart. And I chose soul. And that can be your spiritual too. It's whatever. And I chose soul mainly because at that time I was deputy principal of a St. Augustine school, and these were the teachings of St. Augustine and body, mind, heart, and soul. And I thought, yeah, it's had a big impact on my life. I'm going to keep that.
Hmm.
So what I did was put everything that a clinician would tell me to do. And then I decided that this has to be holistic and it needs to be person centered. It needs to be about me. What do I value? What do I want to do to give me a purpose in life? So if you go onto my website, which I'll talk about later, you can see the tree and you'll see exactly what a doctor would tell you to do. But that might be 6 or 7 of the 44 leaves on that tree. So the other things are there because it's about refinding myself, rebuilding myself to be this new Bill Yeates, not
Hmm.
the old Bill Yeates. The old Bill Yeates was focused on being a headmaster, being this type of person. That was totally unrealistic for the new one. So I talk in terms of that, an old Bill and a good Bill. I
Yeah.
might say this is a throwaway, which people probably disagree with me. I actually feel I'm a better person.
Mm.
You know, but I actually feel that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so on that tree are all the other things that I've done. And no clinician will tell you this. And like, for example, I found that I needed to enjoy life, and life needed to have a purpose. I needed to have new goals. So one of the goals that I set myself was, and I'll talk about this one because I think it's the easiest one. I've been a lifesaver for something like 30 years. When I got a diagnosis of dementia, I was now scared of sharks. Would you believe it? For some reason, I developed a phobia of sharks.
Well, I don't really think that's for some reason either.
Oh, meaning that I would, when I was young, I
Were
would,
you kissing them
go
earlier? I
surfing, go
don't know.
swimming. I'd do all that. I wouldn't worry about sharks. Now I'm looking everywhere. Oh God. Anyway. So, but I also had this burning ambition that I wanted to do an ocean water swim,
Yeah.
but that doesn't work well with the phobia of sharks.
Hmm.
So anyway, so why I'm telling you this is that one of the leaves on my tree is to challenge yourself. And one of the challenges I set was I'm gonna do an ocean water swim. So if I trained for 9 months, I set myself a goal. I worked out how to do it with a physio, an exercise physiologist. We worked out what I needed to be able to do, and I trained. I had a purpose.
Mm.
It got me up in the mornings to train, to swim, to get to this goal. So I went over to Fiji and I swam 3 1 kilometer swims. I came last, but that's totally on the page. I mean, no problems with that.
Yeah.
The issue for me was that I needed to complete it.
Yes.
And that's a story I
Amazing.
often tell in a conference to say, look, there's me. I've got pictures of me and all that type of thing. But it wasn't about getting a medal. It was actually about
Mm.
setting a goal
Yes.
and working towards achieving it. And
Yeah.
I found that by doing that has given me a new focus.
Yes.
And you'll see if you, as you work through my tree, and see the different aspects on it. Things like listen to music. I love my music, and I suddenly lost it, and now I put it back on, and it's fantastic. It calms me.
Yeah.
But I will talk of two leaves in particular, if it's
Can I
okay.
just
I said I'll talk for ages.
No, no, no. But before you go any further about the leaves, I just want to explain to everyone because
Please.
not that Bill's not showing it or anything anyway, but even if you're listening, you wouldn't be able to see that. But I just want to explain to everyone. So what this is Bill has come up with, and hopefully I'm explaining it well enough. So basically, Bill has grown his own tree, okay, of on a piece of paper. On a piece of paper, he has made how he said he's put himself in the center. So he has become the tree. And the tree has four different main branches that come off it, which are these areas that you've mentioned: your mind, your body, your soul, and your
Heart. Heart.
heart. Yes, heart. And so those are the four main branches that come off it. And each branch then has its own leaves. And what Bill is discussing with us now are what some of these leaves are. And I guess one of the things, though, that is worth mentioning as well is that so Bill calls this his tree of positivity. And the thing is that everyone is going to have their own tree of positivity. The question is whether you're willing to sit and think about it and figure out what your leaves are. But it's not then enough to just have the leaves, is it? You have to
No.
actually, well, in my mind, I was thinking of it as like every day picking a leaf. You have to not only realize that they're there, so they're like your tools, and it's then actually deciding to use them as well. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Otherwise, I will definitely be putting the link to the website as well so that you can have a look at this tree as well and maybe better understand it. And I'd love to hear what your two more leaves are that you're about to
Okay.
discuss.
Right. Mm, Suzanne, what I add is that the colors are chosen specifically to represent exactly what, like heart is about relationships, not about
Mm,
love. Oh, it is about love, but it's about relationship forming. And it's probably who you love in your own word, but every color makes sense
mm,
to what it's trying to represent. Um, so the two most important leaves for me, first one, I put on there, and everyone I think can be attuned to it, is it's aim for success. Right? Now, when I put it in there, I didn't mean becoming rich and famous. In fact, it had nothing to do with that. What it meant for me in my description of that belief is that I want to be able to wake up every morning happy with what I've achieved and willing and wanting to do the same thing again. That's my sort of take on success.
Hmm.
And probably the most important leaf in the whole trip comes from an ex-student of mine, Alison. She told me, her advice to me was, she said to me, I have on the windows as my kids grew up a phrase from Nemo, which says, just keep swimming. And for me, I know in the movie it has a completely different meaning, but for me, it's about resilience. It's about understanding with a diagnosis of dementia, it's progressive and it's incurable. So I'm going to have challenges. There are some days which are probably not good to be around, and there are good days. But the whole idea of it, of for me, the phrase means is that whatever I attempt to do, I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm not going to give up just because I have a diagnosis of dementia. So
Hmm.
it reminds me clearly when I look at it all the time is that I'm not giving up. I might modify my goal, but I won't give up. And
Mm.
that's probably my mantra for everything and advice to everyone is what you do is that when you face adversity, don't give up. Keep going. And
Yeah.
what that means, and there's no better, I can't define what that means, but other than it varies based on your own circumstances.
Mm.
But the important thing is that, an important thing for me at that time was my kids had seen that darkness where I'd given up. Now they're fully aware that dad isn't like that person anymore.
Yeah.
Changed. So,
Yeah.
mm. So, and I do apologize. I do get a little emotional about it. It's only
I
because it's really at the core.
please do not apologize. I truly do. I love it. I I do. I think it's something that everyone should be using. It's how I guess because I relate to it so well as well. You know, I have suffered from depression before as well, and I actually think that I say that you don't I don't think you really get over it. You learn to live with it. You just keep swimming,
Yes. And
and you figure out the ways to make life work for you, to find that positive in the negative. And but I was wondering, so how do you use it? Do you have your tree printed out and do you like look at it every morning?
yes,
Is that what you do?
yes, I do. I don't look at it every morning,
Yeah.
um, because I've had this is a concept I've developed way back in 2020 when I first looked at. Can I leave for 1 second? Right. Only reason I'm going to leave for 1 second. Everyone can see me, can't they?
Yes.
Okay.
But I
Let
can
me
pause if
grab
you
the
like.
original tree. I'm going to grab
Okay.
the original tree for you. This is a tree that I made out of paper, 2020. I found it a couple of days ago
Okay.
and it all rolled up and I've just got it on this dining table with a weight on top of it to it. But it might show our audience, or sorry, your audience, exactly
It's
what I'm
our
trying to
audience
say.
today, Bill.
Okay. Ownership's important. Give me 1 sec and
I will.
I'll be back with it.
I will. I see. I'm so excited about this because I feel like, again, well, I hope as listeners, you are getting as much out of this as I am. This is going to be an extra long episode, but I'm not willing to stop it yet because there's still a few more questions that I have for Bill. And I think that this is really important, not only for dementia sufferers, but for everyone. Now, okay. If you are just listening, Bill is showing us the
Can you see
tree.
that? Is that
That
is that good enough for everyone?
Do you know what? If you could just raise it up a little bit more. Oh, I
Yep.
love it. And you know what I might see if you can do for me, Bill, is maybe even take a photo for later and then I can add it to the end of I can put it up
Sure.
so that people can have a
So
look at it if they're listening.
for everyone, this is my original thinking.
It's
So like, and
beautiful.
I found it, and I wrote things like, if I knew what to change in my life, and I wrote that when I was thinking about it. I was saying, if I'd known that I was going to end up with a diagnosis of dementia, and now realizing there are multiple factors, I would have made changes. I wouldn't have
Ah,
even take away food as anywhere near as much.
mm,
I would have made sure that I did regular exercise. Um, so it was a lot of things like that I would.
yep.
Um, like here's an interesting one, right? When I watch TV, right? Can you see it? I'm sorry about
Oh
this. I
yes, it
really
says I
close.
can read that it says Netflix, but I can't read the rest
Yeah.
of it.
So I like watching serials. And the
Hmm.
reason I'm constantly, if you knew me, I will spend 2 to 3 hours a day just on exercising my brain. And I watch serials because I've got to recall what happened in the previous episode. So
Ah,
before I start, I'll think about it and go, okay, all right, that's it. That's what's happened. So I'm training my brain in everything, like every
yeah.
day. And this is what I mean. Like I might, hopefully I present as a person who's very conservative, not silly, not crazy, but I worked out in my own mind that if I'm going to have a shot at trying to slow this disease, and I'll refer to it as us Alzheimer's, then I'm going to give it a really good shot. So everything that I do has a reason.
Mm,
My tree is called a tree of awakening or positivity. It's awakening because I believe it's in you. Yeah, I
yes.
was a very positive person before my diagnosis. I became negative. Now I've got to find that person again. I've got to find elements of that person again. Um, I used to believe on this original tree, there's a thing called community service. I was very much of the opinion that society needed to do things for me. I had to wait. I realized that that's actually wrong.
Yeah.
What I need to do is give back to society. So I've gone back. As a volunteer surf lifesaver. I gave up when I was diagnosed. Now I've gone back. I'd attempt, and I'll say attempt, I still train kids in champion lifesaver, but it's all about giving back.
Mm,
Laughter is on my tree. What else have I got? Yeah, yeah. So anyway, you can see how it's all changed. If you were to go onto my website, which is
yes.
awakeningpositivity.com, you'll see my tree as it stands. And it is completely different to this. The concept is similar.
Yeah.
But I
But
do believe it's synergetic in the sense that you can't just build one aspect of yourself. You need to build all of it concurrently. Um, like you mentioned before, Suzanne, that you would just take one leaf and work with it. That's totally fine. There's
mhm.
nothing wrong with it. It's your tree. How it works for you is you're the first person. No one can tell you what to.
Yes.
So you're why I change my leaves 4 times a year, depending on. And the last one I might just get in because we're probably running out of time. My third most important, I forgot about that. This is my dementia, but you mentioned it to me. Um, is it's okay to stumble. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now, by that I mean is that I've got on my tree limit alcohol, limit processed foods, eat healthy, etc., etc. I will, if I've achieved something, eat something that I shouldn't. And
Hmm.
I put it on the heading as okay to stumble. I say that because throughout my life, I think for everyone else, it probably would be true that you go on a diet, you sort of can do it for 5 or 6 weeks, and then you
Yes.
just too hard, I can't do this. And you go back.
Yeah.
That's quite okay. It's okay to stumble. And I thought, well, if I'm going to have to live this tree the way I created the tree all of my life, then I've got to put in there and tell myself it's okay to stumble. It's
Mm,
okay not to do that today. Like, for example, I've got my nephew's 30th um, birthday on tomorrow night. Will I
Yeah.
have a drink? Yes, I will. Why? Because I want to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
Do I normally have a drink? No, I don't. But I will because I want to. And I think that one thing I never lose sight of is that you still have to be a normal person. There's
Yes.
got to be normality in your life. And as
Yeah.
human beings, we make mistakes all the time. And I'm not going to live a perfect life.
Yeah.
So,
But again, that's what you're saying is we're all experiencing this. You don't have to have dementia to be,
no,
to
no.
be trying to challenge yourself and to be doing exercise routines, but then falling off the wagon with it. You know,
And it's
but
totally
that's
okay.
I love it. I really love it. And one of the other things I love about it being the tree is, as you said, it changes. You are growing. A tree is growing. You are going to change. Every trees have seasons. We have seasons. Your leaves are
Mm,
allowed to drop off. You're allowed to grow a new leaf.
yes,
You
yes.
know, it's so it really is. It's just I really love it as a, a metaphor. For me, it's just perfect. I love it. Now, I'm gonna move I'm gonna move on to the next thing. I loved it because I was going to look them up, but Bill reminded me of it actually. Now, I sent a message to the Bahamas Alzheimer's Association. So I don't know if I actually even said it at the beginning, but most of you know I'm actually podcasting from the Bahamas. And Wendy Portier, the president of the Bahamas Alzheimer's Association, she got back to me and was really excited about this podcast. She loved that I was going to be speaking with Bill. And I think that we've actually touched on a lot of the different things that she was asking about. But I said to her, I said, what does she see as one of the biggest issues in the Bahamas for Alzheimer's and dementia? And it's really interesting because, I mean, you've mentioned this word a few times, especially at the beginning of your diagnosis. But in general, you've mentioned it. She said, in the Bahamas, the biggest issue is the need to reduce the stigma associated with the disease. And she said, what is happening is that because of this stigma, many people are becoming reluctant to be diagnosed. She was interested to hear how you help others overcome this fear.
Look, there's no hard and fast answer to the question because it is a difficult one, but probably the most important question it needs. How do you change society's view?
Mm,
Um, let me might take me 5 minutes to do it, and I'll give you a couple of examples.
that's
Is that
okay.
okay?
Yes, of course.
Um, from my perspective, the first thing that I look at in terms of trying to change the stigma attached to it is I think society needs to know what dementia is,
Hmm.
what it actually means. As a person living with dementia, I'm constantly saying to people, see the person, not the diagnosis. Don't judge me because I have dementia.
Hmm.
I'm still a person. And it's an easy thing to say, but it's a hard thing to convince people. And I think a lot of it comes from a misunderstanding of society. Just like me, when I was my father was diagnosed with dementia, I didn't know nothing
Mm,
about dementia at all. It was completely foreign to me. And because of circumstances, I now know a little bit about it. But everyone else around me is like that too, is that we hear about dementia, we see the fatalistic outlook
mm,
attached to it, and that's what's conveyed. So I like to convey a different story. I'm not at any time saying that diagnosis of dementia um, is good, or I'm happy about it. But what I am saying to people is that you can still live a life that is enjoyable and has purpose. And that's what I like to convey, not just to the person living with dementia, but also to say to society is that, yes, it is a devastating diagnosis. Totally get it. But with your help, you walk alongside me, not in front of me, not behind me. But if you walk alongside me, then you can help me live a better life.
Mm.
So mine's slightly a different tack in saying that a lot of what I've found is that people's reaction to dementia is because they're just not aware
Yes.
of the condition. They're not aware of what it actually means. And I think sadly to say, as more and more people are getting touched by dementia,
Mm.
it is becoming more apparent that, we talk these days about a dementia-friendly community. And I'll give the plug here to Walking the Talk with Dementia. Probably this is an initiative that I did in 2023, where I walked in Spain with 100 people, these being people
Mm.
living with dementia, clinicians, researchers, everyone. If anyone gets a chance, and listeners get a chance to go, go. It's an amazing time.
Is it on in Spain every year?
You have to be invited to go.
Right.
You can actually reach out and say, look, I'd love to go. Or you could even put your hand in your pocket and send a person with dementia to go to help them. It's a
Right.
very, it's a non-for-profit, it's an amazing organization. I tell the stories because it's probably the only time in my life I've actually felt comfortable with my diagnosis, where I'm not fighting the people around me, I'm not being judged. And I was
Wow.
talking with policymakers, clinicians, well-known researchers, and at no time did I feel uncomfortable. In
Mm.
fact, they embraced me. And what I'm trying to say here is that a lot of the stigma, which I know people who just will not get a diagnosis and will not tell people,
Yes.
I got it. And I was one of them, for fear of being judged. Not judged as a person, but judged as a person who's got dementia. And
Mm.
that's the problem. When for example, as a person has cancer, we don't treat them harshly. We don't do a whole range of different things that happens with a person with dementia. It's chalk and cheese.
Yes.
And
It's
my
very
issue
different
is,
when you can't see it, isn't it? I don't know. Well, I part of me feels like maybe that's it, again, with things that are not physical, it's
yeah,
it becomes very hard for society to understand.
yeah, oh, totally. It's not, it's an invisible disability.
Yeah.
So we naturally assume this a person's okay. And and my argument would be that when Suzanne asked me, I didn't push back. I said, yeah, I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
And this would be a very good example when I talk at conferences throughout the world. It's about it's about my experience. It's about a way of raising awareness and hopefully reducing the stigma. And if, for example, of your listeners here today, if I've made an impact in the story that I've told by sharing my experience, then there's an answer to the question which is being raised. That
Mm.
if I've changed the perception of people um, towards other people who are living with dementia, then that is a good way of reducing the stigma attached to it. Is
Mm.
it an easy task? No. Can it be achieved overnight? No.
Yes. Do you
It's going to
think
take a long time.
do you think that in people getting a diagnosis, in people, actually, so as she's saying there, in people actually then coming forward, that it's helpful because you realize that you have a community. There is a community there to support you, to help you. There might be the community can also help the people caring for you as well, because it's another part of it, isn't it? I mean, you have been a caregiver as well. And for example, a I have someone in my family with dementia, and caring for that person is can be extremely draining and difficult as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So is that, I guess that in my mind, it's just something that comes up now that, you know, in coming forward, in getting that diagnosis, you're not only going to help yourself, hopefully, help to give yourself some ideas as to, as you said, like with your tree of positivity as well. You know, so giving yourself some help with how to help yourself. It gives you a community, and it helps you to help those helping you.
Yes. Yes. And from the takeaway I get from you, Suzanne, there, it's like building a team around you,
Yeah.
building support. And trust me, when you lose sight of everything in front of you, your goals, your ambitions, you are looking for support. You're looking
Mm.
for help from everyone, but sometimes you just feel that you can't ask for help or you don't know how to ask for help.
Yes.
And I think that's where society itself hopefully will change in the sense that people with disabilities, not just about people with dementia, but people with
Mm.
disability, they have rights just like every other human being.
Mm.
And in our own way, we've got to make sure that and I'll say we here, because I also have that right to help other people with dementia too, which is where I'm coming from, is that we've got to help and support all the people around us
Mm.
so they are enjoying the same type of life that we are.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Now, is there any message or in mentioning, I've just mentioned, like, for example, caregivers, and we'll wrap up soon, but I just was wondering quickly, is there a message or any advice you would give to caregivers for people, for those who are suffering from dementia?
Um, for me, the most important advice I can give is that dementia should not just be talked about in terms of the diagnosis for the person.
Hmm.
Sure, it is devastating, and I'll take me as an example. Sure, it was devastating. However, it was also devastating for my family, and it also impacted heavily on my care partner.
Yeah.
And as Alzheimer's progresses, then I'm going to need more help and support. So for me, the advice I give to a lot of caregivers, care partners, carers, is to say, not only is there you're doing it because you love the person, you're doing it because of, a whole range of really good reasons. Don't be afraid to say to yourself, you've got to also look after yourself.
Mm.
There's that emotional, there's that mental, it just takes so much time and energy. And if you fall over as the primary caregiver, then the poor person who's living with dementia, who's going to help?
Yeah.
So for me, is there a priority with helping the person with the dementia? Most definitely. Is there a priority? Equal priority is for the caregiver to make sure that you're looking after your loved one because you want to. That's a decision you've made. But you also need to be able to make sure you care for yourself.
Yeah.
Have a break. It's okay to have a break. It's okay to say, look, put me in respite for a week. Trust me, it is. If it means that you get a break and you come back re-energized, perfect.
Yeah.
And the last one I'm going to say, which a lot of people will disagree with me, but it's mine. I often say to caregivers, you have to have a strength of character. Right? And what I mean by that is that there's a bit like what happened with my mother. There was a point in time she couldn't do it anymore.
Hmm.
It was a point in time you had to say goodbye. And I respect that. But I also say it in such a way that there's got to be a strength of character that if you've reached that point where you just can't do anymore, you need to have that strength of character and say, look, maybe I need to put my loved one in care for 24/7. and that is the best option,
Yeah.
knowing that you're not going to be judged for that.
Yeah.
And it's an unusual one. I realise that, but it's something that I experienced. It comes back with my mother. Uh, there was a point in time where she had to put her hand up and say, "I can't do this anymore."
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have two people falling
That's
over, not
right.
one.
That's right. That's right. No, I completely agree. Yeah. Oh, Bill, I truly, I have so loved speaking with you. Now, before we go, how do listeners stay in touch, learn more about you and about dementia?
Sure. Um, if you want to learn more about me, you can go onto LinkedIn
Hmm.
and type in, do a search on not Bill, but I use William Yeates, and the spelling for that is Yeates, and you can follow me.
Yep.
I do a fair amount of posting about the different things I'm up to. You can go onto my website. And again, it needs to be updated, but we'll get there. But you get a gist of it, of
Yep.
different things that I'm doing.
Yep.
And that's called Awakening Your Positivity as one
Yep.
word.com. That'll pick that up. And you'll see that colourful tree. You'll know that you're on the right page.
Hmm.
Um, and lastly, like Bahamas Alzheimer's Association, which you have where you are, is a lot of everyone who belongs to ADI, which is Alzheimer's Disease International, which
Hmm.
Bahamas does, they have a website, and you can go onto that
Yes.
and learn about different things.
Yes.
They'll take you to resources and things like that. If you're still looking for more, I know that there's one fantastic website that I'm sort of I work for, in the sense that I don't work for them. I do it as volunteer, but I think they're extraordinary, and I don't mind. If you don't mind, I
No,
will
not
say
at
that
all.
there's a thing called Forward with Dementia.
Hmm.
If you type that into Google, you'll come up with their website, and they've got some fantastic information
Okay.
um, on dementia.
Yeah.
But there are many websites like that
Yeah.
throughout the world.
But I sometimes again, it can be very, I know that when there's so much information, it can be overwhelming. So I
Yes.
love it. To have some starting points here for people is amazing. And I really, I know I have received so much from you from this talk, Bill. I'm really so incredibly grateful. And I really do. I don't think it's even just about dementia. I think it's about mental health in general. And more than that, because even with your tree, it's your well-being, your
Mm.
entire well-being, and making sure that that's a priority in your life. Because as you say, and I know, sometimes people, probably think I'm just a bit too dreamy, but and not realistic enough. But for me, it's defining what that success is, as you've said, in life.
Yes.
And I think that it's really amazing. I think if you look up Bill as well, his the work that he's doing, the the information he has on there about, I love on your website, there's even all of some of the different challenges that you've done and keeping track of your swimming and your strokes. And I was so impressed with all of it. It's really, really amazing. And even things like I came across and I know I'm supposed to be wrapping up, but now I'm just keep talking. A song has been made about Bill. So go onto the website, see if you can find out what the song is. That's just a little
Yes.
surprise we can put in there. I loved the song.
Oh, good.
And
Thank you.
thank you so much, Bill. I really, really appreciate your time. It was lovely having you with me tonight.
Can I say to thank you
Yes,
to you, Suzanne, and thank you to all the listeners for giving me the opportunity to talk about my lived experience. I really do appreciate that, and I hope in my own way that um, I've enlightened you. I've given you some knowledge about what it is to live with dementia, and hopefully changed the world in this little way, because it's important. So
thank
thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Warm Hugs with Suzanne. Please like, subscribe, comment. I love hearing from you. I need to know whether Bill has, turned everyone off off the podcast. I don't know. I can't even remember if that was before we started taping or not. But Bill said to me, "I hope I don't like lower your listener base." I truly don't think that that's happened tonight. So let me know. Let us know what you thought. Thank you so much, everyone. I will hopefully have you listening again soon. Goodbye and thank you.